next page, we'll see our course policies and procedures. So the big one that I'd really like to emphasize is the policy for our classroom community. So I really want to create an online classroom that feels like a shared space and a group environment, much like you would in a face-to-face class where you get to see your classmates and talk to your classmates and you really get to know these people. We won't be able to take it quite as far in the online setting, but I do want us to really feel like a group of students, not just, 30 disconnected, isolated people who just happen to be doing the same thing as each other. Like, I really want it to feel like we're doing this together. So number one, our policies for classroom community. Our virtual classroom is a group, not a collection of isolated individuals. In order to maintain a sense of classroom community, we'll hold synchronized discussions. Like I mentioned before, we'll sign up for like a time slot to complete your discussions. We agree to attend our chosen discussion time and maintain an interactive learning environment. 2, our virtual classroom is a safe place to talk about potentially controversial topics within the context of understanding ideas, viewpoints, and rhetorical structures and strategies in college-level writing. We agree to respect diverse ideas and thoughts by communicating non-aggressively and approaching new ideas from a position of inquiry and growth mindset. So for the most part, our course materials are not very controversial. But in many instances, we're going to be confronted with student research. So for discussion topics, maybe somebody wants to talk about language habits in pop songs, and somebody brings in a rap song that has some like sexism or drug references or violence, and that can definitely become controversial. When we're analyzing a topic, so for instance, our first essay will analyze advertisements, and maybe somebody will want to look at the way some advertisements have racist messages and unpack how that sort of racist ideology is formed through symbols and logical structures, and that can absolutely be controversial. So when we get into these topics, we're going to approach them like adults. Like we live in this society together and there are problems and like social problems that we might encounter through this class. And that might provide us an opportunity to start to tackle those problems and think about ways to overcome them, or at least think about where they started from and how to not continue them. So we might get some controversy in this class. When we analyze language habits, some people might choose to analyze, like bad language, like cursing and swearing type things and like insults. So that's definitely an area that I have seen controversy come up in this particular course. So again, when that happens, we're going to be on the same page as each other. We're just going to be respectful. We're mindful. We are a whole bunch of individual people. So just remember you're talking to people and people are just like you. So let's be like sensitive and kind. Number 3, our virtual classroom is a non-competitive place of open academic exchange. We agree to frankly investigate difficult arguments, share our interpretations in various stages of progress, credit our peers for their influential ideas, and collaborate equitably by talking openly about ideas, processes, and concerns regarding the reading and writing experience. So to break this down just a little bit, I don't want us to feel like we're competing against each other for like the top grade. You guys are all going to do great. If everybody gets an A, everybody gets an A. It's not like we have to sort of like compete for so many spots in the A category or something like that. And then also we're going to read difficult materials, like difficult to understand, hard to comprehend articles. So if we're honest about the areas of those articles that are challenging and difficult to understand, and we share and say like, hey, what does this paragraph even say? What does this mean? Instead of sort of pretending like we easily understand all of this stuff, then everybody's going to benefit from those types of conversations. We will share our in progress work. So maybe you're working on an idea and you're a little bit insecure about sharing it because you've just started thinking this idea. You're not ready to prove it publicly, but you're never expected to do so. So if we're having a discussion or you're writing an informal writing assignment, you're not expected to absolutely 100% even understand what you're talking about. This is how you work out those ideas and come to an understanding. So don't have that kind of pressure. And then also, if one of your classmates shares an interesting piece of evidence that you might integrate into a topic that you're writing about, or if they share an interesting interpretation or analysis of something that really inspires you in your own work, thank them, acknowledge that contribution and say hey, thanks for sharing that point of view. I hadn't thought about that before. That's really going to help me as I develop this idea. So just openly, discuss and communicate about, where your ideas are coming from, how they're progressing, etc. And then also talking about the writing process and the experience of reading and writing. That comes up a lot in the student discussion leaders, the weekly discussions. A lot of times people will share about their reading experience or their writing experience or their study habits. So in those conversations, don't feel like you're giving up the secret to success by sharing your experience, or don't feel like you should be embarrassed by some kind of a struggle that you had in your work. Instead, let's communicate openly with each other, and then as a whole group, we will improve and progress. And then finally, number 4 for our classroom community is a big one. College is definitely challenging. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So we have to agree to keep open lines of communication. I encourage you all to get in touch with me literally anytime, before or after a lesson that you just saw. Come to our office hour. The whole point of the office hour is so that you know where to find me and when, if you have a question or want to talk about your work. Email me. We can email back and forth, or we can email to set up a chat time. So anytime, for any reason, but especially if you start to feel overwhelmed, or if you start to encounter difficulties with sort of managing time, especially also if you're new to online learning, managing your time for an online setting when you're usually at home, surrounded by 100,000 distractions, it can be hard. It can be challenging. So anytime anything like that comes up, get in touch with me and let's talk about it. We can overcome these difficulties and these challenges. Or if you have some interesting story or some good news, or maybe you're going to a wedding and you're going to miss class, let me know. Maybe you're getting married, I don't know what it is, what you guys have going on. But if something's going on, just get in touch and we can talk about whatever it is. So if you have any questions about these 4 classroom community policies, please use the replies below so we can get a conversation started about that.